Hi, it's the 11th day of Russian war against Ukraine. I'm recording this video from home. I decided to spend the night at home because it's pretty much exhausting volunteering entire days. And after such a long time, we already realized that we have to be strong and somehow uh, keep our forces and our performance on a high level. And the basic condition for this is get a proper sleep. That's what I'm going to do now. But before this, I want to make this update for you about very important events of this war. So the key topic is Mariupol now. Mariupol is the city that is encircled by Russian army and has been severely shelled. We have no connection with Mariupol at all. There is no electricity. There is no phone connection. We know that there is no water there. There is no gas there. The situation is absolutely desperate, and Russians actually promised to impose a green channel, a green humanitarian corridor for people to escape. For 2 days, people were gathering at the central square of Mariupol in their attempt to escape, but this didn't happen. Russians started to shoot again, and the whole operation had to be put to an end. And it's a total disaster because Mariupol is not a foreign city for me. I spent 2 years of my life there, and the feeling that you cannot reach people whom you know, or you just cannot reach them, they're unreachable, you don't know anything about them, are they alive, or something happened, it just makes us very, very nervous here. So, another important event is that Russians went on protests against the war in Ukraine, and the number of Russians who went to protest comparable to the population of that country is miserable. It is reported that 4,000 people were detained, perhaps up to 100,000 people took part in the protests in different cities of the country, but the point is that still it is not enough. And yesterday, a day before IKEA announced that they would close their business in Russia, Russians were storming IKEAs. Like there were, hundreds of thousands. Russians went to IKEAs for a last day shopping, and that was at the same day when Kharkiv was shelled, the same day when Mariupol was shelled, and people in the West, they also always say that let's impose sanctions against Russian government. We should distinguish Russian government from Russian elites, and that is true. We live in 21st century. There is no place for collective guilt in the 21st century. But, however, we now should acknowledge that majority of Russian populations support this war, and this is incredible and disgusting thing. And when we talk about sanctions or other measures that should be taken to tackle Russian aggression, just think about it, the fact that Russian population should feel effect. Russian population should feel and know that everything what happens to them when they lose money, when they become poor, is because of the politics of their absolutely insane leader. And it's their job to do something about it and to take their leader uh, from the power, and it is just as straightforward as this. And unless it happened, Russian people should experience sanctions. The thing is that they're losing money and getting poor or cannot buy IKEA lamp. It's just, incomparable with the sufferings we have in Ukraine. When, for instance, yesterday, just a 1.5-year-old boy was killed in Mariupol by Russian bullets, and this photo just went global of the parents of that boy who brought him to hospital, and he just died on their arms. So on the one part of the weights we have this picture, on the other we have picture of Russians storming IKEA and the last day, and few brave people who went on streets today. They are brave, but unfortunately there are not enough of them. So in this situation, some new decisions should be taken. It is obvious that sanctions, they didn't do their job yet. It will take time for Russians to experience on themselves the effect of these sanctions. But before that, something should be done. I mean, when we're procrastinating, the things are getting worse. Because Ukraine has been tackling Russian aggression, and it's a pure miracle that our army repels and that we still stand strong. We are now in the city of Kiev. I'm in the city of Kiev. This is Ukrainian capital. It is still Ukrainian. It is under Ukrainian control. But a few things are on the table now. First is a no-fly zone. Why it is important? Because if West and NATO imposes a no-fly zone, it means that Russian airplanes and Russian rockets would be shot by foreign countries. Does it mean the direct war involvement? Well, yes and no, because unless the countries do it from their territory, it's the kind of their defense. The first place and the second place, people in the West should understand that if you don't realize that you are at that war, the bad news are that you are in that war. That is the thing which Vladimir Putin constantly says. He went to war with Ukraine, but the target is not Ukraine. The target is the West. Vladimir Putin has problems with NATO, and he addresses to NATO all the time. And he says to NATO, you are enlarging, so I will attack Ukraine. And NATO just does nothing. They had a meeting, they supplied us some weapons, thanks for that, but the amount of help is unproportional to the amount of harm and disaster which happens now. So the no-fly zone should be considered. This is the way to keep peace, because this is a way at least to protect, Ukraine from further Russian aggression, from seizure of new nuclear power plants. We have four of them. One was seized, and the former nuclear power plant Chernobyl has been seized too by now. But the rest are still under Ukrainian control. They are in danger because Russian missile can hit them anytime. And the only way to escape this scenario is to impose that no-fly zone. The second thing is the information campaign. Russia smears Ukraine, and Russia uses some very, very weird topics. For instance, Russians keep saying that Ukraine's been developing nuclear weapons because Ukraine has deposits of uranium. Ukraine has nuclear power stations that cannot make like nuclear plutonium, but still Ukraine has lots of radioactive waste from Soviet time. Ukraine has the exploded Chernobyl nuclear power plant, and the Russians are sure that having these pieces, Ukraine can create a nuclear bomb. And we have a missile technology because we're one of the countries that builds airplanes and missiles. But I mean, it's the same thing as, say, for instance, the Czech Republic also can create nuclear weapon because they have uranium deposits. They have the same reactors as we have here, and they have some test reactor in the Academy of Science. So perhaps in theory, maybe one day, in theory, they can enrich some plutonium and launch a bomb. The logic is absolutely broken here. It is like, what if the whole Putin's policy? It's like whataboutism. He's just, what about, if Ukraine creates nuclear weapon? Ukraine gave its nuclear weapon to the West and signed Budapest Memorandum about it. In 1994, we just refused from our nuclear weapons that were stationed here from the Soviet times in exchange in exchange for guarantee of our territorial integrity. And that paper was signed by Great Britain, by United States, and by Russia. And Russia definitely broke their promise. And Russia broke Ukrainian territorial integrity. The other issue Russian fake is that Ukrainians are fascists and nationalists, and Russian justify it with a case when couple of foreign students were beaten in Kiev or in some parts, in other parts of Ukraine recently. Well, the story is that Ukraine actually has lots of foreign students. We export education. We have lots of students from Africa, from India, from Bangladesh, from all over the countries, and these people are in danger now, and they're trying to flee and leave Kiev and leave other cities, and they go to the western border. And there was an accident at Lviv rail stations when two guys from Kenya tried to catch the train and were beaten up by the people because Ukrainians let only children with women and children in. Ukraine doesn't let to any man to pass the border now because we have martial laws. So these guys were just beaten up not because they are from Kenya, but because they break the rules. And you know what, Ukraine, I can understand this situation. I can understand people of Ukraine. I can understand women with children who stand first in the row and who have to get evacuated first. So, but Russia invests like huge money in heating up these stories, in spinning them, and I think that this kind of smear campaigns should be just discussed, and these fakes should be just dissembled. This is a very important thing to do because Russians went on offense on information space. They realized that they've lost, like from the first day they invaded Ukraine, they've already lost informational initiative. But what they're doing now, they're catching up, providing absolute fakes, absolute nonsense fakes, and these things just have to be uh, put on public debate and dissembled. So please stand with Ukraine. If you like this video, please share it because the more and more direct voices from Ukraine will be heard by the world, the better for us. And thank you for watching.